I can see me. You're live.
Yes, I know.
Ooh. What do you think? Tell me when you say it.
Well, I can't see it
Oh.
yet. It's not live. Oh, now I am. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to be on there. Yeah, now I can see you. You look great.
Cool.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't even see the Bell's palsy.
Really?
Huh.
Okay, cool. You like the background?
I love the background. This looks really good. Okay, so someone's here. 3 people are here.
Oh my goodness, wonderful. Let me just make sure I'm there.
I'll just do the typing.
Oh, we have.
Okay, so we have Gianni is here and Rona might be in here.
Cool.
I would just let everybody know that we're just getting ready.
Yes, thank you. My sister is going to be here, and Barley will be next to her no matter what.
So you have me on the phone. So can people hear me talking? I think they can, which is okay.
Okay. Yes. I think. I mean.
I think we have 5 people that are watching currently. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
We're just getting set up. This is the first time that we're doing really cross-state here. Lenny's in Georgia, and I'm in Ohio.
Yes. And I'm on
do a couple little tech things
on my sister's computer. On my sister's computer. Yeah, rigging here at her place. Yes, but cool. This is so good to.
So it looks like we have 6 people watching currently. Who's all here? You can feel free to say hi in the comments, everyone.
Bonnie will be moderating to help me. Thank you. Oh, I hear rain coming down.
Oh, is it raining here? Wow. It's beautiful here.
Yeah, no, it's raining now.
No. If anyone can hear us, can you put a comment just so we know that the sound is working and everything? I can hear you, but
okay, maybe they can't hear you on my phone. Hi everyone. Bonnie's moderating, but she's talking to me over the phone. If anybody is hearing us, can you just leave a comment? Let us know you're here and that it's working, because I'm working from a different location here in Atlanta, Georgia. Not seeing anything yet.
No, let me, yeah. See, I think I can, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
SW said hi. Thank you. That's great. We know that some.
You can hear okay, so that's good.
Get my water ready over here.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so I've got you muted on my screen, but I can talk to you on the phone. So.
Okay, great.
Oh, Sherry, Segovia, Ohio. Wow, close to me.
Oh, wow. Nice. Good to have you, Sherry.
We have 5 people. I'm actually going to screenshot you, Lenny.
Okay.
And just let everybody know on my community tab that we are live right now. You can come over and join us.
I'm ready for my close-up.
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go over here.
So you're hearing her off of my thing. Yeah, got it. You'll hear her off my. Oh, thank you, Buttermilk and Cream. Hello, hi.
Okay, I just did a post over in my community tab that we're going live at 8. So
Hey, Chris. I hear Bonnie have had a long 2 days at work. Oh, I'm glad you're here to relax. Good. Thanks, Chris. I'm glad you're here. Hi, Liz. Liz is here. Ted's niece. Yes.
hey, we have 8 people here.
Yay. Wonderful.
There's 8 minutes to go.
Yes. I'm glad we're getting this to work.
I know, this is exciting.
What state is every... Oh, cool. Yeah. What states are you from? I know a couple from Ohio, I see.
Yeah, I think we've got 3 people from Ohio.
Oh, wow. Yeah, 3. Okay, good. This is good. Ted's home state.
Yes.
Hi,
Kate.
hi, Kate.
Kate is here.
Okay. Hi, Kate. Hey. Minnesota. Nice. Welcome. If you hear some huffing and puffing, it's Barley here, my sister's dog. He's an ever present. He's ever present with my sister.
It's my shadow.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, if anyone's noticing, I call myself about 85% recuperated from the Bell's palsy. Oh, thank you. Yes, Chris, thank you so much. I think it's just sort of like that. My favorite part is the smiling part is the last to come, but when it's talking, it's not too bad. I was thinking I'm feeling well, actually. Yes, I'm feeling well. Thank you. It's just been a slow, incremental process, but it's getting better day by day. So looking forward to it being fully recuperated. Great. Looks good. Nice. I have a halo on your on your phone. No, the lighting. That's Ted shining a halo down here on it.
Lenny, remember this question. Kate wants to know what inspired you to write the book. We're gonna answer that.
Okay, absolutely. We will. We'll be talking all about these things. So thanks for having that question right there. We were just going to wait a few minutes because we said 8 o'clock, and then we'll get started, and people will join as they do. But that's definitely a pertinent question. Can he have his cameo?
Did he have one?
No, he didn't. I was just letting him know in case he. I'm here in Atlanta at my sister's house, and my sister has an ever-present shadow. It's her dog Barley. So if you hear any,
It's not me.
It's not my sister. It's Barley. Aw. Oh, thank you, Kate. I appreciate that. Where's the basil? That should be the commercial. Right? Where's the basil? From the candle reviews, I had a basil candle. I couldn't smell any basil. So thanks for reminding me. All right, we're just a few minutes away. Good.
Got about 3 minutes.
Okay, cool. Or pepperoni. Paula, hello. Hi, welcome from Pennsylvania, southwestern Pennsylvania. That's the region where I'm living. Nice. This is so fun to have people from different areas that I know or affiliated with. Hi, Paula. Oh, thanks, Paula. Love you too. I feel a lot of love. Thank you. Mhm. No worries. Look, Nicole, hi. You're not late. You're 2 minutes early. Oh, Haley from Clintonville. Is that Wisconsin? Wow, wonderful. Welcome, Haley. I should probably have some, I should probably put Ted, I could have put Ted's music on, you know? Some opera from the, I didn't even think about that. Now I am.
Oh, Angel's here.
Hi, Witchy Angel. Hello. Nice. Welcome. Nice. Yeah, I have the playlist from the series. I should have, maybe we'll start with some Debussy. Oh, I can't play it because you're on the phone, Bonnie.
That's okay. We only have 1 minute to go.
Perfect. That's good. Okay, good. There's
You have 14 people here now.
wonderful.
Good. Nice.
Nice start. We'll be good. It'll be good. 15 with my sister, who I'll introduce in a few moments. I'm thinking of making coffee in honor of you. Oh, good. Coffee talk. My son and I always have coffee talk. All right, it's 8 o'clock. Showtime, curtain.
Yay!
Yes. Hi, everyone. Lenny Pinna here, and welcome to TeddCentennial. We are commemorating what would be the 100th birthday of Tedd Burr. And many of you know that's here already, and those who keep coming in will know or find out that Tedd Burr, hello, Elizabeth. Tedd Burr is the subject. He was the person who I knew from Cleveland and made a film about called Letters to Uranus, The Hidden Life of Tedd Burr, in which we discovered his letters from when he was 19 years old, when he was feeling gender confused. And I have a picture of him right here when he was 19 in 1943. And the letters are published in this book, A Face from Uranus, Correspondence Between Tedd Burr and Henry Bellman, 1943 to 1945. And there's also a 6-part limited TV series on YouTube. There's a produced pilot, and then there's 5 episodes that are done as dramatic readings. And they were inspired by the letters and the research I did on Henry Bellman, the author that Ted wrote to. And that is called In the Name of Jamie Wakefield, Too Pretty for a Boy. Before we get started, I want to say that I'm on location. I'm visiting my sister in near Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm grateful to be able to use her office space, hung some fabric to celebrate the TeddCentennial. But I'd like to introduce my sister, my supporter and friend. Come on in, sister. This is my sister, Laurie. She grew up with me in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and I'm happy to have her support here. So she's been following me. Just to let you know, those of you that have seen the TV series, the first episode I performed. And the impetus for that was I was staying down here in Atlanta for about 3 months, and I started working on a scene, an acting scene. And the very first time I did that acting scene was right in Laurie's living room. She and my brother-in-law Dave were my first audience, and they gave me their feedback on my very first scene. And I didn't know that I was going to do the whole pilot a year later, or almost a year later. But it was just really nice just to start playing some of the roles like Ted and Henry. And so my sister and Laurie and my brother-in-law Dave were the first to witness that. And now here we are witnessing Tedd's 100th birthday, or commemorating Tedd's 100th birthday, also commemorating basically a year from my starting this YouTube channel at Ecclesia Arts. It was, I think, Bonnie, July 20th, was it?
July 20th.
July 20th. Yeah, so it's really right around the same time that all of this is coalescing. Do you want to say anything, Laurie?
No, I'm happy to be here, and it's exciting to be part of your journey.
Yes, I'm excited to be here.
Love you.
Love you too. She's going to be
Take it
off
away.
screen and taking care of Barley. Great. Thanks, Laurie.
Everyone's saying how much you two look alike, Lenny.
Yes. Yeah, when we were younger, people thought we sort of were twins, but only one of us has grayed. I'm the only one in the family. Mother, everybody. I'm like, how come I'm the only one in the family that grayed? Everyone else didn't. Yes. So, everyone, as I mentioned, I directed the film about the elder Tedd Burr when he was 76. I published the book of his letters when he was 19 years old. And then I've written a TV series about that period of time, 1943 to 1945. I know there's some of you that have read the book. I know there's some of you that have seen the movie, the docudrama, Letters to Uranus. And I know that there are some of you that have seen some of the episodes or all of the episodes of In the Name of Jamie Wakefield, Too Pretty for a Boy. And so we're here to discuss all of it in celebration of Ted. As we get started, I want to read the inscription to the book that came to me about 3 weeks before publication. And these lines came from his self-autobiography that he wrote in a paper for a class when he was in college in 1944. So that means he was 20 years old. And now we're listening to these words 80 years later. And I think it's extraordinary that we're talking about somebody who was born in 1924, listening to these words from 1944. And I think we'll see just how present he is in our lives today. So he says, nevertheless, psychologists tell us that we are prone to remember the more pleasant aspects of life. And with these, I do prefer to deal. Let the morbid and the bloody real wait to be bound in black leather. It's not black leather, but his morbid and bloody real details are bound in this book. When I am cold and still in eternity. So at the moment, we would say he's cold and still in eternity. Rather than, he says, I should like to cry, meaning now he is crying out, saying, here I am when I was, and think not too bitterly on me. I tried. So we're here to discuss his life. And I just think it's profound that a 20-year-old projected his life in the future beyond, cold and still in eternity, and saying, that's when I want the real details of my life to be bound in leather and told, and saying, here I am when I was. I just think that's extraordinary for a 20-year-old to do that. But thinking about it, when he wrote his autobiography in 1944 in a psychology class, if you were gender confused in 1943, and this time he's living in Cleveland, how do you write that in your autobiography in your class? And so he ended up writing an autobiography that had a lot of allusions and metaphors and symbols and quotes from material that related to his life. But how could he really talk truthfully about his life in 1943 in an autobiography? That's why he's saying, someday, when I'm cold and still in eternity, I would like these truths, these details to be told. So here we are, and it's time for his story to be told. And it's time, it's now a time that we can actually hear it. We wouldn't have been able to hear it, 5, 10, 20 years ago. Now we can start to hear the words of Tedd Burr from 80 years ago, who was born 100 years ago. So I want to open it up for some questions. I'd like to hear about anything from the book, from the TV series, from the docudrama, any questions you might have, or any comments you might have about, let each other know about what you think about the book or the series. And so let's see. Rona.
So our first question actually was from Kate. She wanted to know what inspired you to write the book from before.
Thank you. Rona, thank you for your comment. And Kate, thank you for your question. That is a good place to start. Well, in the year 2000, when I made the docudrama about the 76-year-old Tedd Burr, that's the night I discovered that he had been gender confused when he was 19. He had not told anybody about this for years. I became a confidant in one night where he let me know. I was the first person he told after all those years about what had happened in 1943. And he showed me the picture that's on the cover of this book. And he told me that he had started writing letters to Henry Bellevue, a famous author, and that Henry wrote back, and that they wrote to each other for 2 years. And that after Henry died, Henry's wife, Catherine Bellevue, sent all the letters that Tedd had written to her husband back to him, so that he now had both sides of the correspondence. How often do you get your letters back with someone that you actually can read back and forth? And so those basically, like a dialogue between the two of them, sat in a box for 55 years until Tedd allowed me to know about them. And so, having learned about his life, I was so curious about the letters. I said, could I please read them? And Tedd transcribed the letters that were some handwritten, some typed, and he put them in a binder for me to read. And when I started reading these letters from the beginning to the end, I was just so transported to that time, the details of that time during World War II. But I was astounded that he and Henry, Tedd and Henry, were talking about things like gender, female in a male body, sexuality, things that we, have a hard time discussing. Some people still have a hard time discussing out, openly, but they were discussing it back in 1943. And their relationship was just so interesting and complicated and enmeshed and beautiful and haunting and frustrating and all kinds of things. I thought, this has the makings of a dramatic piece. So I asked Tedd, could I someday make a film or a TV series about it? And because he had trusted me to make the docudrama about his life when he was 76, and he told a lot, some of the stories even from way back when, he entrusted me to say yes. And he also entrusted me then with the letters. He bequeathed them to me. He actually gave them to me 9 years earlier before he died, because he said, you can work on this TV script or whatever you're working on, a film. And I did have sketched some outlines. Now I want to remind you, that was the year 2000 when I first learned of them and read them. I knew America was not ready for this story. Tedd himself wondered if the letters weren't worthy of publication, because the two of them were writers and they had such literary qualities to their letters. And after he transcribed the letters, he did send it out, I think, to a couple of publishers, and he got rejections. So I knew that he was interested in having them published. So when he bequeathed them to me, he said, do whatever you want. If you want to publish them and do the film, I knew deep down he was ready for his story to be told. And so I had to wait, though. It just wasn't time. And it wasn't until after 2012, after he passed, after some films like Boys Don't Cry and Brokeback Mountain came out, that I thought, well, maybe we're starting to enter a time in our culture where the story and the words of Ted and Henry can start to be heard. And so it took a while, but I was working on the TV series first. And I kind of thought, well, maybe people need to see a visual before they'd be interested in the letters. But then the pandemic happened. And you know how many of us, all of us, how isolated we became and in our world. And I know we started becoming more interested in other people, their experiences, their intimate experiences as we were learning in the pandemic. And I thought, you know what? It turned out I now had the time. I had, through a series of events, I left California and went back to Pennsylvania, my hometown, due to some family deaths. And when I got there, it allowed me, after I did the sort of responsibility work for the house, you know, my mom and my aunt, that I could work on the book. And I thought, this is the time. This is the time now. I think people will be interested in hearing the intimacy of those letters. And so that's how that's why I decided to publish the book in 2020, December of 2022 now, I believe. Yes, it was right before 2023. And I spent all of last year really kind of promoting the book. So that's how it came about. I really knew that Ted had an interest. And then to see 3 weeks before publication that he actually wrote those lines about "let it be bound in black leather years from now," I thought he actually wanted this to happen. So that's why I did it. And
Lenny,
yeah,
Rona actually had a good point. She was asking whether or not this would have come about without your involvement. Like, would this have ever happened? I find that an interesting question.
that is great. Thank you. I'm just going to read quickly. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Nicole, for about the insight. Yes, I agree. And Rona, thank you for the question and thank you for acknowledging. There was a man at the showing of the docudrama Letters to Uranus at the Cleveland Film Festival. And he got up at the Q&A and he said, you know, it takes two people to have truth, one to speak it and one to hear it. And he said, Lenny, you were the one that heard the words and knew that there was a story there. So yes, Ted was the story, but it turned out either he picked me, fate picked me, the universe picked me, to listen, to hear, and to know that's a story that needs to be told. So yes, in a sense, I became facilitator, midwife, shepherd, however you want to refer to it, as the one that recognized. And I think I was trained, my sister knows, I was trained to listen to what, could cry, especially what older people have to say. I was very close to my grandfather, and he filled me with stories about Italy and things like that, and wisdom and all kinds of things. And I used to sit and listen to him for hours. And I think that in some way I was attuned to hearing someone's story from the past that had things to say with wisdom. And so I think I was, I guess, the right person at the right time. So
I think everyone would actually be interested in knowing how you met Ted too.
Sure. In your research for the book, did you uncover anything unexpected or surprising? Thank you, Liz, too. Yes. So let's see. Bonnie, repeat the question again about what?
I think a lot of people are wondering how you met Ted. I think that would be a good segue into the research.
Yes. Okay. For some that hadn't heard from our presentation on YouTube, I was cast in a production of A Perfect Ganesh by Terrence McNally. with Tedd Burr. I didn't know Tedd personally. I knew of him in the Cleveland theater scene because I had moved there a few years earlier, and I knew of him. I heard he had done a lot of plays, but I didn't meet him personally until we were both cast together in a production called A Perfect Ganesh. And our parts were very interlinked. I was his sort of sidekick during the whole production, and we became friends. And it was the friendship that we developed during that production that we continued. And I would go visit Tedd at his home from time to time. And then I directed a few productions in which I cast Tedd. I cast him as Tiresias, the old wise blind man from Oedipus Rex, and I cast him as Adam and the god Hermes in the Shakespeare production of As You Like It. So that was definitely what our fusion came through the theater and our love of the arts. And that's actually what binds Henry and Tedd also. They both have this extreme passion for all of the arts. Liz, you had I want to say, in your research for the book, did you uncover anything unexpected or surprising? That's a good question. Boy, I mean, a lot of it was, in a way. I mean, definitely the topics that they were talking about. Actually, my research about, in your research for the book. Thank you. Yes, Liz, I'm sorry. I was thinking about the book. When I researched Henry Bellaman's life, there was a lot of surprise because in his letter writing, he didn't reveal some of his own private intimacies that Tedd did in his life. And so I found a professor, Harry Bain, at the in South Carolina, professor in South Carolina. I think it was the SMU Methodist College. He had done his dissertation on the life and works of Henry Bellaman. And I got in touch with him. He had wanted to get in touch with me when he heard about my film 10 years earlier. And we both had questions. And my question was about who this friend was that Henry talked about in his letters to Tedd about being the model for Jamie Wakefield. And he told me, Harry Bain told me, that this person, his young friend, Albert Berghauser, was indeed his friend, but also the unexpected surprise was that Albert was also a lover in his early adulthood. And the surprise was that Henry brought Albert, into the home of him and Catherine during their first 5 years of marriage. And so the three of them lived together. And so Henry was married to Catherine, but he was involved with Albert. I know they went off to Paris together for a year during those 5 years while Catherine was back. They were all college professors. Catherine stayed back. So I think that was the biggest surprise. And that's the information that unlocked everything, because I just didn't really fully understand Henry's underlying, I don't want to use the word attraction, but I want to say some sort of bond with Tedd, some sort of way in which he was born. And I really believe that there was something deeper. And I think it had to do with gender and sexuality, because I found out he felt that although he was involved with Albert, he felt Albert was feminine. And so Henry in some way didn't have a problem with homosexuality, but he had problem with a femininity in a male body. And that became sort of the conflict also between he and Tedd. Hope that helped. Are you keeping track? Any other questions? Nicole, you were right. Feel like Tedd's personality, even though was reading the letters and watching the series. Hello, Bonnie? Oops.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I was gonna say,
Yeah, just Rona.
yeah. Any other questions I'm missing? Because I'm talking.
No, we're caught up on
But
the
I appreciate. I want to see some of the comments. But I thank you for giving trans people a voice. Thank you, Kate. I have friends who are trans, and I've loved hearing the story about the journey they are on. Are you working on another book? I'm not at the moment. Maybe that'll come later. But because most of my energy right now is really hoping to get the TV series produced fully.
Can you talk about the segue between the book now and the TV series?
Yes. So all of that research I did about Henry and Catherine and Albert entered into the big picture of how I held Ted and Henry's story. Ted and Henry never met in person. However, when you read the letters, you feel the entire time that they are talking to each other as if they're in the same room. So intimately, so truthfully, so psychologically connected, that I thought there must be a way. And there were clues in the book where Ted said, when I'm at a restaurant, you're sitting across the table from me. When I go to the theater, you're sitting next to me. When I go to the art museum, we have wonderful conversations about art. So I understood from Ted's point of view that in his consciousness, he was talking to Henry a lot in his mind. They were having conversations in his mind. And even from some of Henry's letters, he's like projecting some things like, without even seeing your picture, I know you're good looking. And like they're thinking about each other. And Henry also says, even when we're not writing, I'm thinking about you. They affected each other's psyche. And I thought that's the one thing we can do both in theater, which has imagination, and in film, in which you can bring levels of psychology out. You can bring people in different realms, as we know. And in modern times, we do that a lot. In older films, we had more natural worlds. But now we know that we're always sort of in between worlds in some of our films. I thought this is a way now to tell this story in a modern time that actually could reveal what was really happening in that period.
Yeah, Rhoda said she loved how you placed Henry in the room with Ted during the series.
Yeah, it was like he was present throughout. Thank you. I'm glad, because I was hoping it would feel that way, because that's how it feels when you read the letters in the book. It's if like they are talking, they are in a relationship of some sort, friend, mentor, all kinds of relationship. So yeah, I'm glad it worked for you, that in the series you could feel that they really were sort of in the same room with each other a lot. The music also added a layer to the scene. Yes, thanks. Liz, Henry proposed having yes. What do you think would have happened? Oh boy. I hope you don't mind saying Liz, but I'm honored to have Liz participating. She actually is Tedd Burr's niece, and we've come to really get to know each other. And in the film, in the docudrama that I made about Ted, he says that Henry invited him to become his personal secretary, but he says I put up a great protest. I mean, it's only conjecture. Boy, it'd be really hard to say, because it's so interesting, the parallel of Henry bringing Albert into his world with Catherine during their first 5 years of marriage. If he would have succeeded in getting Ted to come to New York to be his personal secretary, and probably I would say most probably he would live in the same large apartment on the Upper East Side with the Bellamans, at least to get started. It's as if bookended, Henry would be inviting the person who looked and represented Jamie Wakefield, just like Albert was the model for Jamie Wakefield. He would have invited him at the end of his life in the last few years with Catherine. I just think that, I don't know. I don't know exactly which way it would go, because he kept saying, we'd love to see art together. We'd love to go to the museums together, the opera, symphony, stuff like that. I would probably think at late advanced age, though, I have a feeling it would stay platonic. And I think Catherine, this would have been healing because Catherine pushed Albert away. Of course, he was a threat to their marriage in their first 5 years, but I think Tedd was not. I think she saw that he brought a comfort to Henry, and I know she cared for Tedd because after Henry died, Catherine invited Tedd when she moved back to Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi. She invited Tedd to visit her, and he did for a week. So I guess the hard part would be is if Henry would have died as quickly as he did, I don't know what would have happened to Tedd then, because I think it would have been sort of a protected world with Henry. But if Henry died, I don't know what would happen to Tedd. I don't know if he'd go back to Cleveland or if he would have ventured out and met somebody else and his life would have taken off. One can only wonder. But it happened the way it happened. Tedd stayed in Cleveland, and there we have it.
One interesting question is when you said that Tedd stayed in Cleveland, do you want to talk a little bit about, Tedd's later life? You talked a little bit about the theater and stuff, but, people might be interested in seeing he's turning 100.
Yes.
Would have turned 100 today.
Yes.
The older Tedd.
Well, so Tedd wanted to pursue arts in some way, as a writer, as an actor, as a dancer. Henry actually kind of talked him out of going into the professional arts because he said, you have to be truly great. It's better that you work a job and have money and enjoy the arts. So that's what Tedd did. Tedd kept his job as a secretary for in the mill. I think it was the mill and the railroad. I know it was J&L Steel for sure. But I think he might have also worked for the railroad. Maybe Liz can help me on that one. Because I get a little confused sometimes. But he worked that job throughout until I think he was 65, I think until he retired or around that time. The first thing Tedd did, he's told me, was he grew out his long, silky white hair. It's as if he had waited all those years to get back to that sort of androgynous look that he had when he was younger. It's like he wanted to re-experience it. And he did. And he would wear sort of like some caftans and things, tunic kind of things. And he would go to the grocery store, and he was always tickled when the bagger would say, would you like help with your groceries or carrying you to your car? He liked being taken for ma'am in later life. And he had such creamy skin and that long silky white hair. He really was, again, that sort of non-binary presence. So did I answer the question about, that's kind of what, the other thing that really is important to know is Tedd continued to act. He acted in community theater throughout his life. That was really, I think, what saved him, was his acting and his continuous interest in opera. He listened to the opera every Saturday, the opera broadcast. He was interested in all the arts, visual arts, performing arts. And he says in the letters, the arts were his gods. And I actually think that that's what saved him, really, because prior to that, he did struggle. In the letters, he says there wasn't a time that he didn't wish he were dead in his in the sort of those teen years. Thankfully, we know how often that has happened. Thankfully, Tedd didn't go that route. And I think it really was the arts and his investment in those that helped him create a life that he could live and still have some degree of joy and happiness in. Liz, thank you. Yes, he worked for the railroad the majority. Yes. And his long white ponytail was fantastic. Yes. And when I met him, he wore his hair sort of like my father's mother used to wear, because he had long white hair. He braided it and he kind of curled it into a little toop, what I used to call a toop, at the back of his neck. And so he really did kind of look like an older woman as well as an older man. Did I miss anybody's questions? Well, hi, Philly, Jilly, and hi, everyone that's come in.
Yeah, I don't think you missed any questions. So I actually have a question for Lenny. So now that you've done this now for a year, it's a year anniversary of Ecclesia Arts. I think everyone kind of would know, like, how do you feel now that the year, the work is done and you're moving into like chapter 2 of your own journey?
Good question. Can you hold it one second? Because Angel just asked the question. I just want to answer it. So I'm just going to answer. She said, did Catherine finish Henry's novel? Yes, she did. And so here's the interesting thing about that. And I kind of allude to it in the TV series. Henry really didn't do very much work on the novel. It amounted to a page, like an outline. And when I went to the University of Mississippi Archives, I saw that one-page outline. Maybe he did talk to Catherine a lot about the work. And I know that she had been involved in his other work, like as a sounding board and as an editor. But honestly, she really wrote most of the book. She didn't have all the notes. She told everybody basically like that they had worked together and that he had given her a lot of notes. But I suspect that really Catherine was keeping her honor of Henry alive in the world by saying he really did a lot of work and I assisted him and then I took over, kind of thing. But I actually think she did much more of the novel than anyone realized. I think she actually wrote most of it. That's my belief. But we also think about the time. Catherine was also a novelist, and she listed it as written by Henry and Catherine Bellarmine. Well, Henry already had a reputation, and she had a reputation, but Henry's was a lot larger. And at that time, women's reputation was linked to their husband's reputation. So I think it was also probably important that she really put Henry's name and that notion that he wrote, was part of the writing of it, to ensure, I think also for herself, to ensure that Henry's name was promoted, therefore she is being promoted. That's my sense of it. I've known it with other people where, the widow sort of has to keep the memory alive of the husband, and it keeps recognition coming back to her as well. That's because that's the time we were in. I know probably still happens now in certain ways, but hopefully those times are coming to an end where women can be who they are. Yes, you're welcome, Angel. What's the journey next? This is a hard point. I've done so much that I can do on my own about bringing this story out. I really feel the next part of the journey needs to involve collaboration beyond me. I think it's going to need producers who see the material and the potential of the material. And I also would invite or hope for a few additional writers. Even though I've written, I'd say, the architectural skeleton and more, a lot of it is fleshed out. I think there's still some refining and some more development that could happen. And I think it would be really great to have a few more collaborative writers really helping to get the details right and to assist maybe in characters like Catherine, just to bring in a woman's point of view to just add to or give more perspective that I think would be important. So I don't know. It's a little tricky for me now to know exactly what's next, other than keep putting it out, and hoping that it attracts the right people to the project. And then I'd love to go with it. I mean, I'd love to, in a sense, I do think I'm part of the story, because the story would have been lost if I hadn't kept it going. And I've kept it going for 24 years. So I would like to continue to be a part of it as, I'll say, like, at least the consulting perspective of it, and maybe help organize it. But I am open to having a few more writers be a part of it. Did I cover it okay, or do you think I need to say anything more?
That's awesome. Ask if anyone else has any questions?
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions or comments about the book, the film of Ted, the Elder Ted, or the series that you might have seen? I see Rona said the music was like a character. Rona, I see that up above, and I want to get back to that. The music is very important to the series, as are all the arts. These two figures, Ted and Henry, went to the opera, went to the symphony, went to plays, went to the museum, and their love of music. Henry was an excellent pianist and actually taught piano. Catherine was a pianist and taught voice. Ted, of course, was a pianist, and the classics, the classical music that they were interested in. I really think if one would see this series and have that score, the classical music as the mood and the score of it, I think it would introduce a whole new generation of young people to what someone like Ted, who didn't have computers, devices, screens, how much imagination he had and in how many places he put it. And that the series would reflect someone who really dug into their imagination. I think that would be really helpful for young people today to see and to be reminded of the classics that are underneath and support innovative work. So I think it'd be good to, I think we do need to go back to history in good ways at times to remind ourselves and collect ourselves. And I think in the arts, that would be a good thing.
Nicole has a question you can read there, Lenny.
Sure. Do you feel like the elder Ted was happy with how he ended up living out his life? Do you feel like he was ever truly able to be himself in life? And then I'll read Rona's in a minute. I believe that Ted reached a place of contentment with his life. Yes, I think that he really enjoyed his life in the theater for sure. And some friends of his, I think he enjoyed, and he enjoyed the theater colleagues. I can say this because okay. There was an actor in Cleveland, a male actor in Cleveland named Dick Howie, who became Chris Howie, changed genders. Dick Howie had been married and had a wife and daughter. He became Chris Howie, and Dick Howie and Chris Howie, Dick more so, was an actor in the theater with Ted. When Chris came out as a woman, I knew both at the same. Well, I didn't know Chris when she came out as a woman. I got to know her later because I did her story as an actor. I knew Ted at the time. He reflected to me. He said he was very shaken when Chris came out because in his mind, he had never thought that was ever a possibility. I know there are stories of people like in, Europe, or a few Americans like Christine Jurgensen and others that did transition, but for Ted, he didn't really think that was possible. And to see Chris in her mid-40s become a woman kind of shook him. He said because that's what he wanted when he was younger, and it wasn't possible then. So I will say, I don't think it took away the contentment in life he had, but I know he was shaken just that possibility existed later that he didn't get to have. And there are other things that I became his confidant, and I'm not actually ready yet. And maybe that will be the future writings or stories. I happen to know more about his life that isn't in the book, that wasn't in the film, and I'm not fully ready to sort of divulge that yet because it's not really part of the story yet. We'll see. But I mean, and I don't mean to be, suspicious about that, but he had a personal life in addition, and he did have some, I will say, he did have some affairs. He did have affairs with men. They weren't the loves that he had with Robert. If anybody saw the film about his life, the docudrama, Robert was a young Black man that he was in a relationship with that was killed by a policeman in the same ways that we see here in any day in recent years. And so that was really someone he loved. I don't think he quite ever had that again, but he did have some affairs. Lenny, thank you for sharing. You have done incredible. What is the message you would hope to share by sharing Tedd's story? You are the right person. Oh, wow. The message. You know, I don't know if I have the message, but what I think the message is that I believe that Tedd is the message. I think Tedd, who Tedd was, especially his younger life, I think is the message. He tells us from the inside out what it feels like to be inside that male body, just yearning painfully to be somebody else. And then the pain of conforming. So I think the message is, because Tedd's story in terms of today's world isn't a triumphant story for a transgendered person. It is the story of somebody who struggled and could not break through and therefore conformed. And in the conforming, lost parts of himself. I think the message is, by seeing what people have to do to conform, that should give us the insight into, why do we do that to people? Why don't we let them be who they are? Why do we make people feel that they have to conform to a sexuality, to a gender, to a this or to that, to anything? Why do we set it up that way? Why don't we set it up to, like, who do you want to be? We celebrate all of you. That's the message to me, is by watching Tedd's story, we should be more instructed as to what not to do, what to say, what not to say, what to support. And a big important message is, it takes the whole community to allow somebody to be their authentic self. Otherwise, they're always in a battle with society. But if society was the ally and society was the encourager, that person would be themselves and bloom. So to me, it's a universal message of, let everyone be who they are. Let them explore who they are. Let them evolve toward who they feel they are, and we'll all benefit from it. We're not benefiting from putting everybody in straitjackets or constricted or containers or labels. I think that's the message of witnessing Tedd's story, is to feel from the inside what it's like to feel that way. And then why would we want anybody else to go through that? I hope that, I think that's where I'm coming from in all of this. Yes, thanks. Yes, that's it. I just think that's what we would really, I think we would feel it from our hearts if we witnessed this person, really watched and felt that person going through their struggle. You're like, why do we want that person to go through that? Let's let them be who they are. Yeah. I'm on a short list for Kamala. That was sweet. Yeah, but I think, isn't Tedd's story appropriate for now? Because isn't that where we're at right now? Do we want to go forward and help people become more of who they are, or do we want to go back and keep people constricted? And that's really where we're at. And I hope that Tedd's story would allow people to say, let's move forward. Let's let everybody be who they are. Yes, a real parent story really works for today's time. Great. Oh, and who's, hi, Matthew. Hello, Lenny. Good. Did I miss anybody else's comments or,
No, I think you're caught up, Lenny.
yeah, it was said. I see which Angel, it was said. It's in the docudrama about Robert. It's a startling moment in the docudrama, and what's more startling is that it was the exact same story of an innocent person wearing a pipe in a belt and a plainclothes policeman thinking it was a gun, and after he shot and killed him, found out it wasn't a gun and planted a gun on the body. So there we go. I mean, so that's a story too, and that took place in the 60s, or I think around 60. So, and Ted says in the film that led to a riot. So it was like listening to a story that takes place today. Any other, did I miss anybody else's? Do you feel like yeah. So what, those of you that have read the book, those of you that maybe have seen the film, or those of you that have seen part or all of the series, what would you say? Could you tell me, how would you tell others about this? And what would you say to them that it says for now? I'd like to hear your words, someone else outside of me, how you will tell others about it. How would that work? Thank you, Paula. By the time it's done, there's going to be a petition to draft me. But I am curious. Does anyone have, because that is part of this, how do you tell others? Because I do think it's going to be important for those who encounter the story to tell others about the story, just to even help it proliferate. Rona would say, I would say, no matter what your background, where you come from, this is a story about love and finding your place in the world. Good. That's the universal quality of it. That's fantastic. It's about being true to yourself. Yep. Cool. And if somebody said specifically, if they said, okay, like tell them what the character, I mean, what would be the theme? That's really the universality. That's really good. How will you describe the theme? Like, what will you say? It is people tell beyond the universal. It is there you go. It's a political story too. Good. So the personal is the political. Okay, good. Any other, how you would tell a friend, about Tedd Burr and his gender confusion? What would say to them, or just out of curiosity and no pressure? It's probably hard to describe. I think that's sometimes the part of the problem with the. Is there anything you would say? I'm just out of my curiosity about this. If you've seen the series, parts of it or all of it, about I think the fact that this took place so is relatable now is amazing. I do think the relatable and the universality is very immediate. About the imaginative part, the structure of the series, because it's not linear, it's not as much like a story you kind of see that just runs straight through. Would you be able to tell people like, oh, it has imaginative scenes that come to life or different ways? It's a story about a gender-confused man who identifies as a woman in 1940 and connects to a famous author who in turn becomes ally and helps Tedd. That's the elevator speech, Rona. Thank you, Rona. That you very concisely, it's a story about a gender-confused man who is identified as a woman in the 1940s and connects to a famous author who in turn becomes ally and helps Tedd find happiness in who he is. Excellent. How are we doing? Is there anything else anyone would like to offer or question?
Yeah, I think we're doing pretty good, and we're coming up in about an hour, which is good, Lenny.
Yeah. Yep.
One thing we might want to say is if anyone's interested in seeing 4, 5, and 6 episodes, how do they do that?
Sure. Okay, so episodes 1, 2, and 3 are public on YouTube for a couple of reasons. One is I didn't want to put the entire thing on for the public, for people that maybe don't really have the interest. I really want people who are interested to see the whole thing, who are invested. So 4, 5, and 6 can be seen on private. I mean, there's a private link that if you email Ecclesia Arts, Bonnie, I think the email is there, right? Where it tells them.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it down there.
Yeah. That you just, all you do, you email and say, I've watched 1, 2, and 3. I'd love to see 4, 5, and 6. And you get sent the link that lets you watch the rest of the series. And so I'm also doing that to half protection, so that also if a producer is interested, I want them to know that, like, the whole world hasn't seen the whole thing, but there are people who are very interested and saw parts of it, or half of it. So, but those who are really interested, I want you to be able to see it because you're invested in it. I want you to be able to see it. Liz says it reinforces that gender confusion is not a current fad. It's a truth that has been with us since the beginning of time. There you go. Thank you, Liz. And Witchy, you said, I would probably follow what Rona said. I would also bring it up if someone was struggling with the feeling of being accepted for who they are and not what they are. Great. Nicole, I love the entire story and I'm sad it has to come to an end. It is an amazing story and journey. Oh, thank you. Yes. And this is a limited TV series. There isn't a sequel. Because Henry died. But there is the docudrama about the elder Ted, so that you could actually sort of pick up Ted's story later in life and listen to him in memory reflect upon his life. So in some way, I think that adds something. So if you haven't seen Letters to Uranus, The Hidden Life of Tedd Burr, that's another way of getting a more complete story. And actually, some of the stories that Ted used in that docudrama became part of the series because they weren't in the letters. So I was able to even call the film for some more scenes. Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you. I really appreciate all your support and love that you've given during all of this. Thank you, Rona. And I just hope that we can get more people to read the book, see the series, and hopefully somebody along the line will be connected to somebody who, yes, thank you, Bonnie, for moderating, for sure. It's very helpful to me because I can't talk and read at the same time.
Me neither.
It's a joy to have you, Liz, and Rona, and Nicole, and Angel, and Carla when she comes back, and all of you. It's just been a joy to have you a part of this. You're the first audiences for the story of Tedd Burr, and that just thrills me that there's been such a group that has been interested in getting to know not just the older Tedd Burr, but also the younger Tedd Burr, because that story, I think, it really speaks. So I'm so happy that you took the journey, and please share the journey with others. I just hope it spreads. That's the main thing I hope, is that it spreads, goes wider. And then I hope somebody who can actually really widen it, some wonderful producer can widen it so that a lot more people could see it. So that's the main hope right now. Yes. Well, I thank you. We're coming up on an hour, and I think that was a great celebration for. I'm really glad we have commemorated Tedd's 100th birthday, and I want to read the inscription one more time because I want you to hear these words again and think how alive he's speaking to us in the present. Nevertheless, psychologists tell us that we are prone to remember the more pleasant aspects of life, and with these I do prefer to deal. Let the morbid and the bloody real wait to be bound in black leather when I am cold and still in eternity. Rather than I should like to cry, here I am when I was, and think not too bitterly on me. I tried. I think he did more than try. I think he succeeded. And all of us have benefited by becoming acquainted with the soul of Tedd Burr. Happy birthday, Tedd. Happy birthday, Tedd. I hope Tedd will help this get his own story out. Oh, this is a tiny little thing. My sister brought me to a temple. It's a Hindu temple recently. And there was a Ganesha altar. And I sat at the Ganesha altar and got in a little trouble. I sat a little too close. But before they found me sitting a little too close to the Ganesha altar, I had an absolutely peaceful moment of remembering that it was the Ganesha, the remover of obstacles. That's what the Ganesha is known for, is the remover of obstacles. So I hope Tedd and the Ganesha remove the obstacles to this becoming a widely produced TV series. But I felt so peaceful and calm just reflecting that Tedd and I met through the character of Ganesh. So I got to experience that just a few days ago as part of this 100th birthday centennial. Yes, thank you all. Thank you for taking the time to celebrate with me, Bonnie. Thank you, Bonnie, so much for making this happen. And thank you, Laurie, my sister, for making this possible for me to do this on location. Love you all. As along the way, if anything happens with the series, I will be putting that on YouTube. But I'm also going to be thinking about some other things to be putting on information-wise. So I'll let you know. I don't want this to be the end. I just want this to be the new beginning. Okay. So we'll launch again. Thank you so much.
End button, Lenny.
Huh?
You have to hit end.
I have to be the one. Okay, I'm going to end, everybody. Ciao. Take care. Love you and thank you. Okay.